So this week's 2026 watch is a big one. You might know that Illinois has a competitive Senate primary going on right now to replace outgoing U.S. Senator Dick Durbin. And we have a very vibrant field in this Senate primary in Illinois. And I'm so excited today to be joined by one of those candidates who is running to be your next United States Senator. She is a champion for the people of Illinois. She's been working alongside Governor J.B. Pritzker for the last 7 years, making the lives of Illinoisans easier and better, and she wants to take her talents to Washington. Joining me today to talk about her race for U.S. Senate, her work in Springfield, the headlines, and a lot more, I am joined by Lieutenant Governor of Illinois, Juliana Stratton. Lieutenant Governor Stratton, thank you so much for joining us here on the Ishan S. Show today.
Thank you for having me, Ishan. I'm really excited for our conversation.
Indeed. I'm very excited because there is so much for us to talk about, and it is an honor to have you on. But before we do get into our interview, why don't you take a couple of minutes to just introduce yourself to my audience?
Sure. Well, first of all, my name is Juliana Stratton, and I'm so proud to serve as Illinois' Lieutenant Governor. But I'm especially proud to be having this conversation today, running as a candidate to represent the great state of Illinois in the United States Senate. And I really kind of think about my trajectory here. I didn't really grow up in a politically active home in the way that we kind of think about it these days. We didn't go to a lot of different events. I mean, my parents voted and they were interested in issues, but I wouldn't say that they were out engaging by, having political meetings or being in those political circles. And so for me, it wasn't sort of this traditional path. In fact, it was a very non-traditional path to ending up as lieutenant governor and now a U.S. Senate candidate. It really started 10 years ago. In 2015, I was caring for my mother. My mother had Alzheimer's, and I was her primary caregiver. And at the time, while I was caring for my mother, I saw a news story that showed that my state representative at the time was working with our former governor to strip away health care for seniors just like my mom, who needed access to health care. And I knew how hard it was to provide that care. She didn't get state benefits, but caregiving is hard. And a lot of families in this country know what that's like. It was hard, but it was also the greatest joy of my life to care for my mother. And when I saw that there was an effort to strip away health care, I decided to step up and run against that state representative so I could fight for seniors like my mom and for all Illinoisans who deserve to have access to quality, affordable care. I ran against that 13-year incumbent and I won. And I ended up being the state representative for the 5th district in Illinois. I lost my mom just the day before I launched that campaign, actually. But she's been with me every step of the way, reminding me of why I do this. And that is to make sure that everyone understands that government should make your life better. It should not be a roadblock. And so I served in the Illinois House for one term. And 6 months into that term, that's when JB tapped me to be his running mate. And I was proud to be a part of the team that beat our former governor, Bruce Rauner, and make sure that we could put Illinois on the right track, take care of our working families all across our state, and make sure that we do everything that we can to make people's lives better.
Well, thank you so much for that. Now, you are running to represent Illinois in the U.S. Senate. I imagine you are going up and down our state talking to voters. What are you hearing from Illinois voters right now? What is on top of our voters' minds right now?
Well, what I would say is that, I ask everybody that I talk to, whether it is in an in-person meeting or hanging out in the grocery store somewhere, I'm having so many conversations about what people are looking for, what issues are at top of mind for them, what do they care about? And I can tell you, Ishan, that more than anything else, people are not necessarily telling me about a particular policy that they are interested in or a piece of legislation. What I hear more than anything else is people telling me they are looking for someone who is going to fight for them in the United States Senate. They want to know that the government cares about what's happening in their lives, that they're going to stand up against the chaos that's happening in Washington, D.C. right now under the Trump administration, and that they
Mhm.
are going to have somebody who will go to the mat fighting for them. And I'm proud that I can look them right in the eye and say, I will be that type of fighter for you. People have made it clear they no longer want someone who's just going to, or the kinds of leaders. I shouldn't, it's not even about a person. They're not looking for leaders who are just going along to get along. They want someone who is going to fight for them. And that's exactly what I will do.
And now you know how voters are looking for that fighter. You are running in a competitive primary. How do you distinguish yourself as that fighter amongst the field?
Well, I think first and foremost, I point to my history and my record and what I have done over these last 9 years as first a state rep and then as lieutenant governor. I mean, look at what I've been able to accomplish as a partner in governance to someone who I think is the best governor in the United States, Governor J.B. Pritzker. We have raised the minimum wage. We have protected women's reproductive rights. We have created thousands of jobs all across our state, good paying jobs. We've stood up and protected workers' rights. We have put Illinois on a path to a clean energy future, and we passed an assault weapons ban. I mean, that is what can happen when you have true fighters who fight for the people, who never forget why they are in office, and are there to deliver for the people. And that's what I've been able to do over these last 7 years as lieutenant governor, again, alongside Governor Pritzker and his leadership. So that's the blueprint to me. I mean, that is the distinction because I have not just talked about what needs to happen. It's not just about filing bills. It is about getting things done for people. And that's what I've done. And I think the other thing that I would point out is that I'm the only candidate in this race, a leading candidate in this race, who has made the decision not to accept one single dime of corporate PAC money. Because what I'm hearing, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is that people are looking for leaders who are going to center their needs, not the needs of corporate special interests, not the boardroom, not the CEO, but how do everyday working families, everyday middle class families, what's going on in their lives and what kind of support and help do they need from the government? And so I'm really proud to have made that commitment because this should be a race about the people, not
Yeah.
about corporate special interest.
A lot of big stuff that you have indeed done. We've covered some of it here on the show as well. Please let Governor Pritzker know I say hi.
I will.
Let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the headlines because it is a Nishana Show interview after all. We got to talk a little politics. Right now, the U.S. government is in a government shutdown as Republicans continue to remain hell-bent on stripping health care away from millions of Americans and raising the cost of premiums. Now, we are entering into another level of the shutdown starting this weekend. Millions of families are expected to lose SNAP benefits because of this continued government shutdown. I just wanted to get your thoughts and reaction to everything that has been going on, or rather, I guess, not been going on in Washington, and how you are taking a look at this.
Well, let me talk about it in a couple of ways. First, I'll talk about what you said, which was the shutdown. And remember that the Trump administration and congressional Republicans clearly don't care about everyday Americans who need access to health care, who should have access to quality, affordable health care, nor do they care about hungry children or veterans or seniors who don't have access to food and need food assistance. Because, quite frankly, when it comes to SNAP benefits, Donald Trump is making an intentional decision to cut off SNAP benefits for Americans, people who need those benefits, people who just need that extra support. And by the way, there's a misconception, but I want to make it clear many of these people are working and
Yeah.
need that additional assistance to help put food on the table for their families. This is going to, in so many ways, rip food out of the mouths of hungry children and so many other Americans, and it is unacceptable. And I want people to know that by ending these and interrupting these SNAP benefits, it's not just going to impact people who have SNAP benefits. This is going to impact everyone. We're going to continue to see grocery prices going up. We're going to think about some of our small grocery stores and other grocery stores that are going to be impacted. Their businesses are going to be impacted. This is going to have an impact on our food pantries all across the board. Our food system is going to be impacted because of this unnecessary cut to SNAP benefits and using hungry Americans as a bargaining chip. So, when it comes to the broader question of this shutdown, remember, Donald Trump has the White House, he has the Senate, and I'll just throw in for good measure that he has a Supreme Court that's rubber stamping his
Yeah.
authoritarian agenda, and it's up to them. This falls at their feet. They are the ones that are holding things up, and they are responsible for this shutdown. They have all of the levers, and if they wanted to get something done, they could do it. And I'm proud that Democrats are standing firm and saying we're not going to allow them to strip away health care from people who already are too often making a decision between whether they are going to pay the rent or go to the doctor. And it's one of the reasons why I am supporting Medicare for all to make sure that people can have access to the health care that they need.
It's absolutely just unconscionable the way that they are using millions and millions of families just as chips in all of this, and all for the fact that they want to in some way or the other strip people of their health care. I think it's a travesty that we're even in a situation like this. Now, in addition to the threats coming from Washington, the Trump administration has also put Illinois very directly on its dartboard, the Chicagoland, where both you and I are from specifically. Every day, I hear about ICE agents roaming around in the streets, essentially abducting people in the dark of night. In many cases, they hit my hometown just this past week. I know you and Governor Pritzker have been standing up against a lot of the chaos that this administration has been throwing our way. Do you have any updates or anything that you would want to report to my listeners about the effort to stand up to Trump and the federal government's overreach into our state?
Well, first of all, let me just say that that is the exact word that I would use. It's the federal government's overreach. Remember, this is not about public safety. This is Donald Trump, a wannabe dictator who wants to normalize the presence of the military on American soil. And we can never normalize that. And remember, he's only attacking Democratic cities, blue states, and he is taking out his own personal vengeance against those who refuse to bow a knee to him. Listen, what's happening in the streets of Chicago and in communities in our surrounding areas is horrifying. And every American, no matter what state you live in, no matter what your city, no matter what your political affiliation, you should be horrified at the thought of everyday residents, some of whom, quite frankly, are U.S. citizens,
Yes.
being stripped, taken off the streets by masked agents, stuffed into unmarked cars without a warrant, without any level of due process. Everyone should speak up against this power grab, this authoritarian enforcement effort, and recognize that this is not normal. Tear gas, priests and other members of the clergy being hit with rubber bullets, and what's happening, people protesting and raising their voices peacefully and being attacked. This is not normal. So what are we doing? We are speaking up. Governor Pritzker and I are speaking up every chance that we can. We're working with so many incredible organizations around our state who are getting out Know Your Rights information, who are organizing rapid response. I want to give a shout out to the neighbors all across this city and in the surrounding areas. Everyday people who are saying not on my watch and are coming out of their homes, they're blowing the whistles, they're chasing off these ICE agents. and they're standing up to protect one another. It is a beautiful thing to see, but it is also something that should not happen. I know I went out to schools, for example, when I saw that, there was ICE activity around some schools. I went out to make sure that students could have safe passage and walked out after school to make sure that those students knew that there were adults who wanted to make sure that they were safe. And then finally, I'll just say, Governor Pritzker and I have recently announced the Illinois ICE Accountability Commission, which is being led by a number of distinguished leaders in our state who are going to make sure that as people grab videos and have stories and other testimonies about the damage and the trauma that's being done by this ICE enforcement effort, this aggressive ICE enforcement effort, we are collecting that because even if we don't see the accountability today, there will be a time that people will be held accountable, and we're going to make sure that we have all of that information compiled to ensure that that happens.
Absolutely. Thank you for all of that work. I mean, I'm from the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Our community is very tight knit, and we have been coming to rally for our neighbors and our community members, and we look to your leadership and that of Governor Pritzker's. I have a couple more questions. This next one does have to kind of do with this. The president made a strange threat to arrest Governor Pritzker in his response to standing up for his state. You are technically next in line after the governor. Just when you hear those types of weird things coming from the White House, how do you react to that? And should we be taking any of this seriously?
I don't think that there's any line that Donald Trump won't cross, but here's what I would say is that everyone needs to understand again, it is not normal, nor can it ever be acceptable for the President of the United States to be threatening elected officials, serving their states, serving their communities, because he believes that they are not bending a knee to him, that he
Mhm.
believes that they are quote unquote political enemies. To threaten arrest or incarceration of anyone in that manner is unacceptable. But here's what I will also say. As I said right when he made that threat, that if he thinks threatening Governor Pritzker with jail is going to put an end to this fight, he's got it all wrong because I would stand here ready and prepared to keep the fight going on his behalf. So he'd have to come through me as well. So that's what I've said. The governor has made it clear that, hey, if you want to threaten this, come on and get me. We are not scared. We're not backing down. And we will never back down to this wannabe dictator who really, in so many ways, is truly a weak man.
That's good to hear. Lastly, a lot of people right now in this moment, as we have been discussing, are looking to leaders like yourself in elected office and candidates running up and down the ballot for leadership in this moment. And they want to know like how, and in my conversations with many people, they want to know how they can meet this moment, how they can use their voice to speak up or get involved even. Do you have any advice, particularly for young people for that matter, on how to use their voices in this moment?
Yeah, I've been so inspired by so many young people who are getting engaged, who are out in the streets protesting, who are serving their communities. You even spoke of your own community coming together for your neighbors. And,
Yeah.
I think what I always think of is I think of the story of my dad who marched from Selma to Montgomery in 1965. He didn't know, he had never been a part of something like that, but he decided to march because voting rights were not being afforded to all Americans, and there was discrimination. And he decided to march alongside future Congressman John Lewis. And someone must have asked my dad, because he wrote an essay about it, what did you think you would accomplish by marching? And my dad said that I would just stand up and be counted. And I think that's the moment that we're in. Everybody's not going to run for U.S. Senate. Everybody's not going to have a political affairs show where they can talk about these important issues like you, but everyone can do something. And please know that your voice matters, whether it is helping at a food pantry as SNAP benefits are being stripped away, whether it is making sure that your neighbors feel safe in their community as ICE continues this aggressive enforcement in our communities, whether it's speaking out or getting trained or making sure you know your rights or volunteering for an organization or joining a campaign and supporting that candidate who reflects your values. I think the bottom line is we all have something that we can do, and this is our time. My dad is 92. He has passed the baton to us, and it is our time to stand up and be counted. And I'll just say this, Ishan, that if we do that, if we all do our part, we will get through these really dark times. I am sure of it. Hold on to your hope, and let's keep working together.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, we are edging very close to the end of our interview here. I know you had that very hopeful message. Do you want to just build on that and any parting thoughts that you'd want to share with my audience before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I would just say that I'm proud to be running for the United States Senate. I want to take the Illinois blueprint to Washington, but more importantly, I want to take your voices with me to Washington. And if you want to learn more, go to julianastratton.com and, of course, follow me on all the social media outlets. I'd love to work with you and alongside of you to build the world that we want to leave for the next generations.
Lieutenant Governor of Illinois and candidate for U.S. Senate, Juliana Stratton, thank you so much for joining me here on the Shauna Show today. I hope to have you back on very soon for maybe a campaign update sometime.
I would love that. Thank you, Ishan.
Thank you.